up, everybody? Courtesy of and you still have to figure out how to show things in the screen. There it is. That's a dollar store energy drink. What's up, everybody? John Marks, Delco Steve. It's been a week since we've been on the air, as we were scheduled to be going on Monday, and I texted Steve late in the afternoon. I could feel something that wasn't good that was coming on. You know what? You could feel like, oh, this is not good. Felt a fever coming on. With my kids, my house is like a petri dish. So texted him and was like, yeah, this is bad news. And by 8 o'clock on Monday, I was just totally cashed. And I hadn't been this sick since, I think it was 2018. I had the legit flu where they swab you and they're like, yeah, you have flu B or flu A or whatever. So I didn't have flu A or B, but I had some kind of terrible, terrible virus, not the HIV virus, but something almost as bad. So quickly, because I can't wait to talk about this Shady and Deshawn Jackson crushing Chip Kelly, and then we'll get into relive the whole story. But so my really, like all my daughter, we've had this problem where they have strep throat, but they don't really have it. We go to not to get in the weeds too much. We go to our pediatrician. They swab them with the rapid test. They say, yeah, they got strep, but they're not really having symptoms for it. So my youngest daughter, just like, she wasn't eating great. She was like skipping meals, didn't want to eat. So my wife's like paranoid, like, go to the doctor. So we go and they're like, yeah, she's positive for strep. But we've had cases previously where we're like, no, send away the culture. Like, oh, well, we don't send away the culture if they're positive for strep. It's like, send away the culture. I don't believe it. We did this because I didn't believe they had strep and I took them somewhere else and she didn't have strep. So every time we send away the culture. So again, I don't want to get too in the weeds here. So they tell me, no, it was like really streppy. Well, I don't think this is a false. First, they told me there are no such things as false positives. Then they're like, oh. So anyway, so she has strep throat Monday. This is like early afternoon. So by dinner time, I'm like laying in bed, rolling around, not feeling great. So Tuesday, I wake up and I had I have a fever. I had a brutal night Monday into Tuesday. Let's bring Delco Steve in here too. So, Delco Steve, you know when you have a fever or you have the flu or you have something like that, and the night it feels like 3 days long, and you never really are asleep, but you're just like burning up and you're
cold sweats.
Oh my God, man! It felt like it was 3 days just that night. So I wake up Tuesday, and it's one of these things where, and like I don't normally get sick, but even with COVID, I had COVID twice. I still worked. I came down the basement and worked. Like, I didn't feel great, but it wasn't bad. This thing kicked my ass. I couldn't get out of bed. So I'm like laying in bed and I'm thinking, maybe I have strep. Because another reason why we took Bella to get tested was a bunch of the kids that are in school with my kids got strep. And Bella was around them too. So now I'm thinking, well, I have strep. And if I wait another day, then it's going to be another day to get the antibiotic and I'm going to be fucked. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to urgent care. So I go to urgent care, which was the worst decision ever. And if my primary had appointments, which they didn't, and I didn't call early in the morning enough, I called it like lunch to where I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should go get swabbed. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just go to urgent care. Bing, bang, boom. No bing, bang, boom, man. I went in.
It's never bing, bang, boom in urgent care.
It depends when you go. It's all the luck of the draw. I went in, they were packed. I had a good experience at this place and a not so good experience at this place, but it was better than the other place we go to. And believe me, I know urgent cares with having kids. So I'm there like 3 hours before I'm finally seen. They swab me for strep, they swab me for flu and COVID. By the way, they don't even like really swab me. So I don't even believe that they're swabbing me correctly. And I'm ready to leave. And I'm like, I can't even sit in this chair anymore. I want to lay down on the floor. Get me the fuck out of here. All right. So the doctor like comes back in. I'm like, can you give me a prescription for nausea medicine? I'm like, I'm dying here. Just get me out of here. So she comes back in literally as I have my phone in my hand and I'm standing up, and she's like, hold on a second. So at that point, she realized I was diabetic. And again, this is like a diploma mill. All they're doing is trying to get you in and get you out. Do you have strep throat? Do you have an ear infection? Do you have this? Do you have that? Right. So finally, they're like, oh, you're diabetic. Well, how's your blood sugar? And I like show them my phone. I'm like, it's 179. They're like, all right, can you give us a urine sample? So again, not to get too much into the weeds, but what they worry about is that when you're diabetic and you get sick, that you produce too much ketones in your urine and it becomes so. I give them urine. They're like, you need to go to the hospital. What do I need to go to the hospital for? They're like, your ketones are really high. No, she said sky high. And I'm like, she's like, and that's bad. Like your organs could be shutting down or whatever. So I'm like, all right. So it's 3:00 in the afternoon. Now I'm driving to Paoli Hospital to go to the ER. Now, how many hours is that going to take me, do you think, Delco Steve?
Minimum 2 in the ER.
Maybe 5. All right. Because I go, I'm not even in a room. They just do everything in like this little triage side room. They do all the blood testing. They do everything. And finally, the doctor that I finally see a doctor and they're like, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And I'm like, well, why were my ketones sky high? And she's like, they weren't. And I'm like, well, why did the doctor say that? She's like, I don't know. Like it's normal for them to be high when you're diabetic, when you're fighting a virus or the flu or something like that. I'm like, it wasn't anything abnormal. I'm like, so I literally, by making a decision to go to urgent care, this urgent care, now I've spent 9 hours in an urgent care and an ER for no good reason. Now, fast forward to today when we got the culture back on the strep, kid didn't have strep. So literally, I wouldn't even went to urgent care if I wasn't worried about strep. But the kid didn't have strep because the fucking pediatrician, there's something wrong, and they give us these false positives all the time. So,
oh Christ.
So anyway, I still feel like holy hell. This has been like I've lost this week. I can't believe it's already Thursday. I'm able to at least function today. I couldn't function Tuesday, Wednesday, and like all half of Monday as well. So. But I'm feeling better.
Did they finally give you something at the end of all this or what?
Nope. So I go to CVS Pharmacy because she said she would send in the script. My wife goes to CVS Pharmacy and there's no prescription for me. So I call the urgent care. This is yesterday. I call the urgent care and I'm like, I didn't get the prescription. And of course there's nobody to talk to. So the woman calls me back.
They don't even know you were there.
Calls me back like 6 hours later, and it's like, well, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I called back in because you never called in the prescription for the whatever it's called. And it's like, oh, well, did you take the script? And I'm like, did I take the script? Like,
oh my God.
You're giving me paper scripts? Like, no. Like, I thought this was electronic. Like, what are we in the fucking ice age? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you didn't give me a script. You forgot about it. So I've been let down by the healthcare system once again. So has my children. And I've been let down by the healthcare system. So there you go.
Doesn't slightly surprise me.
Not at all. Not at all. But anyway, so I'm able to do this tonight. So I am feeling better. Because it's supposed to rain tomorrow. I was like, oh my God, my grass is so long that I'm like, I got to go out there and cut the grass today.
Got to get on the lawnmower, man.
We have a garage sale on Saturday. It was so long. It's supposed to rain like now until Saturday. So I literally saw the neighbor's landscaper out there cutting, and I limped outside and was like, yo, dude, I'll pay you $50. Please just cut my lawn. I can't do it. So he cut it for me. So it was nice.
There you go.
There you go. So I'm
feeling. I would have drove out there and cut it for you for $50.
Well, yeah, seriously. Yeah, anybody that wants me, I need money. Anybody that wants me to cut their lawn for $50. Even if you have a push mower, I'll do it. But
if someone paid me $50 to do my lawn, I would say that's not enough money.
That's the going rate. And I have a big yard too. So it's not
Is it flat?
Oh yeah, it's a great flat lawn, yeah. It's great. It's very easy to mow outside of the going around the swing set. But once you know the ins and outs, and they've cut my lawn before. The one time I also was like, "Yo, can you cut my lawn? I'll give you money for it. I'll give you cash, so you don't have to tell your boss." So yeah, so he did it, so I'm good. But yeah, man. So how are you before we get to this Deshawn Jackson?
Good, man. Good. Had the weekend to recover from that, terrible Sixers loss. That was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I was just thinking we never talked about it, right?
Nah, we went on before Game 6 and haven't been that. Everyone's probably thinking that we were just like, fuck it, we're out after they lost.
It was the weirdest. It was the weirdest feeling. I actually went on with, because that was Thursday night. I went on with Anthony PHLY that next morning, and it was the oddest feeling to not be mad at the players. And I saw a lot of sports radio that was saying like, "Oh, the fans are turning soft." No, what am I going to be mad at the players for? Joel Embiid was playing on one leg. He scored 39 points. Right, Tobias Harris sucks. He's going to be gone. Maxey didn't have it. He saved
we got a
game
huge
5.
Buddy Hield game.
Yeah. We finally got the Buddy Hield game, dude. That's right. You were texting me that night. We finally got it. And they just didn't have enough. The Knicks are the better team.
And Batum killed it.
Batum killed it, and they just didn't have enough. So it was hard to be mad at the players after that, but it definitely is like, all right, listen, Daryl Morey, we can debate whether or not that this is your fault where the Sixers are right now, because you talk a good game about how you've transformed this team into a true contender. They were a big contender before you got here. So he didn't sign Tobias. He didn't do a lot of this other crap, but he did trade Ben Simmons and got what he got for Ben Simmons. Reality is now they have to figure out what the hell to do. And if Paul George is what the answer is going to be, and that it seems like that's probably what he's going to try to do, good luck. Good luck with Paul George.
It can't be that.
Oh, it can be.
I mean, if hypothetically speaking, if it's 1 year and a crap ton of money, fine. But it's never going to be that.
Yep.
We'll see. Get the scouts out to watch Bronny so we can get LeBron.
Yep. Daryl Morey stealing money. Let me tell you something. Daryl Morey, for the amount of money he's making and he's made, this dude hasn't even been to an NBA Finals. All right? For all the years he's been running basketball ops, and I'm not telling you he's not a sharp dude, and there's not a reason why he has the job. What the fuck has he done in Philadelphia to give anybody confidence that he's going to be able to take what's here right now existing and turn this into a championship team? He's not a total idiot, right? He's not a terrible GM.
He's a million times better than Colangelo.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. But does he have what it takes to now transform what he has with this team and get them to the finals? I don't believe he does, because I can already see what his game plan is. You can already see what the playbook is. He's going star hunting, and I think if you watch the Knicks play right now, I mean, the best answer may not be the biggest star. It may be like Jalen Brunson has turned into a much bigger star than I expected when he went to New York. I didn't see that coming, right? But you don't think a couple of other players that they picked up on the Knicks is really helping that team? The other Villanova players, right?
Yeah,
anybody could have.
It was funny because FanDuel had a boost the other night, and I thought it was shot when Brunson went out. And it was the 3 Villanova players to score 70 plus, and Brunson has 8 points, I think, and then gets hurt, or 5 points and then gets hurt, doesn't come back. And the other 2 are just going off. I'm like, all right, well, this has got a shot. Brunson comes back and hits. It freaking barely gets over. I'm thinking I need 40 points from Brunson for that to hit. And it's like, nope. It's like Hart and DiVincenzo are just going to drop 45 by themselves.
It's a fun team.
And Hart's going to have 18 or 15 plus rebounds every game.
They figure out a way to do it, man. Brunson last night has a Willis Reed moment, and the rest sure as hell got sucked into that New York crowd. And I can tell you, I mean, they're making it pretty obvious they'd like to see a Celtics and Knicks Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, Jesus Christ.
only slight giveaway there.
God, man. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the fix is in. I don't think the referees or the fix are in. The fix is in. But Jesus, they're leaning on those the home team, the first 2. So anyway, like I didn't even think we were going to talk about the Sixers. I forgot we hadn't talked about them on here. But yeah, like
we don't need to get back into it.
Nah, man.
Phillies are hot. That's been fun. That's been fun this week.
Holy crap, have the Phillies been hot, man. Oh, they have been. That has been. I hate to say it because it's not fair to say, but doesn't this team look like it's as good as any of those teams during the run? And the team that won the World Series
Definitely.
won 92 games. So it's not like they were a juggernaut during the regular season. Their best team, 101 wins, lost to the Cardinals. So, like, this team's playing like they don't have flaws. Their starting pitching
He's killing
is
it.
unbelievable. Taiwan Walker's pitching well.
Yeah, I don't want to go that far.
Well, I mean, if Thompson would stop putting him out in the seventh inning,
Yeah.
he's pitching. Listen, I'm not telling you that he's living up to his contract, but still, he's not getting bombed when he's going
No.
out there. Chris Sanchez looked good in his last start. You have Turnbull that's there. The bullpen has been good enough. The lineup's been killing it. Since Bryce had the baby, he's been hitting home runs.
Baby fever, man.
Wait, you know what? Someone brought this up, and I think it's a good point. I didn't want to bring it up on the Out of the Parks with John Marks because it may be a little bit insensitive, but not insensitive, but so you know how boxers, they won't have sex when they're training for fights.
Yeah.
And it really is true. If you're planning on working out, and I've talked about nooners and things like that before, if you're planning on working out, don't go have relations beforehand. She ain't working out afterwards. Trust me. So if you're planning on working out at night, go snuggle after you do the workout. At least that's how it is with me, for sure. Once the deed's done, it's over.
Depends.
Well, you're a meathead, so maybe it's different for you. Maybe it pumps you up.
No, I'm not getting into details on this. Go ahead, continue.
So anyway, so boxers typically they're on dry island with sex while they're in training for the fight. And so typically after a woman has a baby, right? It's because
you got 6 weeks off.
You got 6 weeks off. So all of a sudden he's smashing home runs.
So for the next 6 weeks,
take Bryce Harper. He's not going to do it every night, but take Bryce Harper home run almost every night, and it'll pay off.
Hey, if that's a strategy that's going to work, then I'm all game.
Yep. Yeah. The peaking too early. Listen, Joe Giglio may or may not have said that so far, but I mean, the reality is you want to be playing your best baseball in September into October. So they could be playing as great as they want right now. If they run out of gas or they get injuries or things like that, yeah, I mean, absolutely. But we can't forecast to where if that's going to happen in September. So just enjoy it. This is the best baseball we've seen in how many years, Steve?
It's just like it's
over a decade.
The teams the last couple of years obviously have been good, and like they go in the playoffs, they get hot, they make a run, great. But it's just like it's fun to just actually have a team that you're watching like just dominate and not be like, I hope they get hot at the end. And like, I mean, obviously there could be a lull here coming up at any point over the summer.
Yeah, but they can't do this the whole year.
Right. But it's just, like you don't have to, you're not playing this catch up. Like you're building yourself a cushion where like when the Braves start to get hot, then you can actually be going neck and neck with them instead of being like, oh, well, we're 10 games back from them in July and we're never going to catch them. So what's the point? Sort of thing.
Yep. Yeah. And Corey, and what's up, Corey? I saw your messages earlier, buddy. Yeah. And we haven't had June Schwarber yet.
No.
Right? This team hasn't played like this early. We complained about the slow starts. We complained they lost the first two series of the season.
Yeah, they were 0-3, right? Or whatever, or 1-3 or something. Well, no,
so they lost 2 or 3 in their first two series.
Right.
And then
so they're okay, so 2-4.
Yeah, they're 2-4. And I remember us talking about it, and I was saying,
yep,
people are being pretty negative. Like, everybody relax. But I think what was fair to say was if you wanted to talk about winning the division, then you couldn't start slow because the Braves are going to win too many games. And goddamn, did they not start slow, man. The Phillies are crushing it. I saw Jason Stark, and this was prior to them losing the other day. Where is it? Right here. So going back to last year, so Jason went to the last 162 games. The Phillies were at 101-61.
Nice.
Plus run differential 197. So over a full season between last and the start of this year, the best teams in baseball. So, yeah. So it's been.
We haven't got the June Schwarber yet. We also have Nola pitches so much better when it's hot and humid. Like, I mean, I know he didn't get the win the other night or the other day against Toronto, but
he wasn't terrible.
He was dealing in the beginning.
Yeah, he wasn't terrible. Ranger Suarez has been the best pitcher in baseball.
Oh, I put a bet on him to win Cy Young. I took a shot on him instead of Wheeler.
Yeah.
I was plus 1,700, I think, when I got it. I mean, Wheeler was, plus 175.
So Ranger was on Out of the Parks with John Marks. We looked at it maybe 3 weeks ago. He's plus 2,600.
Yep. Yeah, the first time I looked at it, it was plus 2,000, and I was like, I should probably do that. And then the next time I looked at it, it was going down. I'm like,
it went down like 1,000 every week. All right, so Stark included postseason. Thank you, Kevin. That's actually a good point. Rangers been great, man. I love watching Zach Wheeler pitch. I'm telling you,
it's so much fun.
He is just, he makes it look easy. He doesn't need to throw 100. He's throwing 95, 96. I mean, he hits the corners. He's got his breaking pitches are outstanding. He throws 4 pitches, and Sanchez looked really good in his last outing. And then you have Nola, and Nola's kind of an afterthought when Rangers pitching like this too.
Yep. And it's so much. It worked out perfectly how we were saying Nola would be a grade 3 guy if Rangers going to pitch like this, and he's your 2.
Does this rotation rival the 4 aces? No. Halladay was the best pitcher in baseball.
No, it doesn't. I mean, as much as I would love to say it does, but it doesn't.
But what did Cliff Lee do that year?
It doesn't matter. It's just, the talent-wise, those 4 are just so much more talented overall than these 4.
Okay.
Or 5, whatever, because obviously you're going 3 to all
right. So Cliff,
and you had Joe Bland was the 5th.
Well, he should have been the 5th. Cliff Lee in 2011 was 17-8 with a 2.4 ERA in 6 complete games. Holy crap!
He was a beast. They all were.
They all were. Well, I mean, if you think about it, Oswalt was still, he would have been the ace on a lot of teams. All right, so Oswalt 20, Oswalt, because his first full year with the Phillies, which was 2011, his ERA was 3.7, and he was 9-10.
So yeah, it's not great.
He wasn't great.
It's not terrible, but it's not great.
No. And Halladay in 2011 was 19-6 with a 2.35 ERA. Coming off of Cy Young.
The fact that they only won 1 actually is the crazy thing with that, with the pitching staff that they had after 2008.
Well, and he was done after that, Halladay. If you remember, that next year, he really started showing the tread on the tires were worn, and then he was just done. 12, his ERA was 4.5, and then 2013, he was done. His ERA was almost 7.
Whew.
So, yeah. Who am I missing in the Halladay, Hamels, yeah. Well, listen, Cole Hamels was never a great regular season pitcher. He was good.
He had years where he would just pitch like 1-run games, and they would lose 1-0, 2-1, 3-1.
Yeah, no, you're right. He never had the big win seasons, but his ERA was always very good. So 2011, he was 14-9 with a 2.79 ERA. So that's a very good year. Yeah. Well, all right. There you go. Yeah, so I am super pumped over the Phillies start.
Yeah, that I've been locked in on those games for majority of the week.
So what about your guy Bomb? What about your guy Bomb? Are you still
I killed the hit streak. Yes.
You did.
I killed the hit streak. I literally had a hit in a parlay. That's all he needed was a hit. Everyone else in the lineup got a hit except for him. Smoked it. Wow.
Yeah, last Friday, on Fridays, me and Maniac Malloy on Bet Parks, we get an odds boost where we come up, we concoct something, and then they boot, and they do a pretty good boost. So last Friday, we had Nola plus 5.5 strikeouts. We had, what did we have? We had Bohm. We hit 2 or 3. Nola cost us on the strikeouts. He only had 4 strikeouts. So he screwed us last Friday. But anyway. All right. Well, there we go. All right. So Deshawn Jackson, Shady McCoy. What's the name of the big podcast here? It's the
2510 show.
Oh, see what they did there? Don't go,
So
Steve.
creative.
Oh,
so
man,
creative.
it's great.
Hey, at
So
least they have a name.
Here's the real question: is because do you remember Stephen A. Smith had a TV show on ESPN, and what was it called? But I remember his first guest was Allen Iverson, and like his second guest was Larry Brown. And then after that, it only lasted a couple of weeks, and then it was done. It wasn't First Take. It was like I don't know, like an hour long. Let me bring on a guest and interview him, like almost like a late night type show,
like a 60-minute type thing.
Yeah, and it didn't work. But like so that didn't last very long. So you wonder after, because they're coming out, Shady and Deshawn are coming out, guns ablazing, going after Chip Kelly, as they should. And I'm so happy because Deshaun's never really, he's talked about it, but not like this. And I think it's just because now it's their own show. And I think he's comfortable enough in his life and in his maturity to talk about it. So we'll play a couple clips, but it was in 2014 because you have the whole Shady thing with it too. But it was in 2014 that the story came out with Deshawn Jackson having the gang ties. If you remember, there was a lot of talk leading into that offseason about Deshawn Jackson and the organization. And when you said the organization at that time, it was Chip, because Chip had taken control of the organization, being unhappy with a lot of stuff with Deshawn Jackson. And I remember Chip speaking at, it was either the GM meetings or the owners meetings, and Chip kind of gave a vote of confidence to Deshawn. And I remember Deshawn came out on social media and said, "Oh, Big Chip. I heard Big Chip." Whatever it was, like Deshawn almost seemed relieved that he wasn't going to be gone. It seemed like he wasn't going to be gone because there was a lot of rumor and innuendo that the Eagles wanted to get rid of him. And I remember, listen, doing sports talk radio for 2 decades, there's certain things that you remember, but you don't remember precisely because things kind of run together. I remember this like vividly because when, just like this year with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, and it's like, is there something going on? I'm hearing this and I'm hearing that. What you get from a lot of the fans, and mainly I'm talking about social media, is, yeah, you guys making stuff up. 94 WIP, the Fanatic, Mikey Miss, Johnny Marks making stuff up. This is all bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And that's what everybody was saying about the Deshawn Jackson rumors. But you knew that there was something to it. And I remember when the story came out, I was actually in for Mike Miss. For whatever reason, when Miss and Ellie, I was working middays at the time, I believe with Sean Brace. And so I was in for Mike, and it kind of was developing during the day, and the story dropped when we were on the air. So it went from being like, what's going on? The story dropped, and he was released before you knew it. And I remember getting Brian Westbrook on the line, and Brian Westbrook was like, what are they doing? Like, what are your memories of it, Steve? Like, what do you remember from, you weren't at the Fanatic yet, because this was 2014.
Yeah,
what do you remember from the story?
Honestly, I don't remember crazy much about it at this point. Now that I think about it, it's like, I remember like the Shady trade for Kiko Alonso, and I remember like talking myself into like, Kiko's going to be good. Like Shady's going to be on the downside of his career. I remember like doing that stuff. And I remember like the gang ties for Deshaun and being like, well, he is UCLA. He's from, is he from Compton or?
He's from Long Beach. And he also, the DJACC. You know why he doesn't do D-Jack? Because that means Crip Killer. So the CC, you don't put CK. If so, like there's so many things to say about this, which I'm going to get to here. And I know ESP's getting hammered today over this, and he was mentioned and tagged in all the videos that were put out there. But anyway, so I remember reading it, the story, and my first takeaway, and I'm reading the story on the air. My first takeaway is, well, shit, he's got gang ties. Like, what do you want the Eagles to do? Right. And by the way, there was Chip Kelly used to make these guys, like, he more or less had GPSs on them, and he used to make them come into the facility and piss. So they could see like how much sleep they got, like everything about them.
Yep.
And what do you think Desean and Shady were doing? You think they were getting 12 hours of sleep a night? Or you think maybe that they were staying up a little bit late and doing other stuff, right?
Shady was kicking girls out of the car on I-95.
Yeah, and Shady's almost a totally different story, because I think differently of Shady than because I like Deshawn a lot. So anyway, like, so, and let me say this about Deshawn before we kind of get into a little bit more. Deshawn Jackson, when he joined the Eagles, was very young. I think he was 21 when he was drafted. He grew up in Long Beach, California. Steve, you grew up in Delaware County. I grew up in Montgomery County. I didn't grow up in North Philly. We both grew up very, very much in a working class Philadelphia suburb.
Yeah.
I've never met somebody that's been in a gang. I've never known anybody that's been in a gang. If I lived in Philadelphia, I don't know if I'd know anybody that's been in a gang. There's not. I know that there's probably a small amount of gangs on the East Coast. There's not a gang culture like there is on the West Coast.
No.
Like, there's not the Latin Kings. There's not the Crips. There's not the Bloods. Gang culture in the West Coast, in Texas, in Los Angeles is so different than it is here. So to think that a kid like Deshawn Jackson that grew up in that particular environment wouldn't have, when you say gang ties, wouldn't know people that were affiliated with gangs. I think technically you could say, did he have a gang affiliation? Well, what does that exactly mean?
Yeah. Well, you could say gang tie. Like, gang ties could be just what you're going to assume something right off the bat, thinking that. But it's like, all right, if I know, like we were talking about, what's his name with the Flyers, it's like, all right, like, it's like, all right, if I know someone from the mob, I have mob ties, but like I'm not affiliated
Right, what does that
with
mean?
them. That's what I'm saying. But it's like, so it's all the way how you phrase it. It's like, or just like you throw it out there. It's just you're going to assume one thing when it really just means, oh, you know somebody.
And
like,
you know what?
You're friendly with somebody at one point in time. Doesn't mean you're affiliated with them. Doesn't mean you're attached to the hip.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's smart, and it's a great point, right? Like, we have people on here that I know that grew up in South Philly that probably know people that are in the mob, right? Whether they're made members or not. I know people, I knew people in my life that were involved in bookmaking, large scale, illegal activities, right? It doesn't mean that I necessarily associated with them, but I knew them.
And if,
right?
if I don't have a problem with you and you don't have a problem with me, like, hey, how are you? What's going on? Like,
right.
I'll be friendly with you. Just don't stab, like, don't shoot me.
Right. So, like, if I know a guy, if I know a guy that's a bookie, like, am I going to be like, no, keep me away from him? He has mob ties because he's a bookie. Like, no, I didn't do that. Right. So
I know the mob's accountant, and he's friendly. He's my neighbor. It's like, all right, I know him. Doesn't mean I'm affiliated with the mob.
If you grew up in Delaware County, you're Italian, right? Like, yep. I grew up where I grew up. I know plenty of people that are connected. I don't believe they're made members of the mafia, but like, I know, like, so you know,
they're not good. They're not good fellas,
right? So no, and I did see Anthony was on the Joey Merlino podcast. Joey Merlino was the mob boss, right? But like, right. Anthony, like, so you're a product of your environment. So what may seem strange to the average white suburbanite in Philadelphia, it really isn't that abnormal for somebody that grew up in Long Beach, California, that grew up with people that were in gangs. So
yeah, like, I went to school with some of these guys. Like, I went to grade school with some of these guys.
Right, exactly. So that's really what the story's about. And I'm not going to dig too deeply into the NJ.com story as far as the details. But I mean, what the story said was, and I will say this, that it was factual, but there was nothing really there. When you read it again, and I remember reading it again and then reading it again and saying that, you know what? Like, what are they really saying that he did other than he's associates with people that have been involved in gang activity or things like that. So like I remember reading it and be like, you know what? And then everything kind of hit me at once. That, in my opinion, I'm going to make sure I say in my opinion, that this was a clear maneuver by Chip Kelly to sway public opinion and to totally create this story because he wanted to get rid of Deshawn Jackson. And they didn't think, the Eagles organization didn't think, and he didn't think that they could do it without putting something like this out there because he wanted him gone. And by the way, I'm sure, and believe me, I heard that Deshawn was a handful back then. All right? Not a bad guy. Not saying anything like that. Like I said, I truly like Deshawn. I think he's a good dude. But I don't think Chip liked him. More about that in the story in a second. Because there seemed to be a type of guy that Chip Kelly didn't like. But like, so for me, this story, while it was factual, go back and read it. What is it really saying? I saw somebody put conjecture up in the comments earlier. It really was. Well, like, didn't really say anything other than like, here's a couple of incidents. And after you read it again, you're like, you know what? This was totally fucking fed to ESP and to NJ.com and to, by the way, it wasn't just Elliott. It was AJ Perez, who now writes for Front Office Sports, who has written a lot of big stories since then. Like, this was a team effort to put this out there. So I want to share something right here. Let me see if I can find it. I do it right here. I remember, and it's weird. I'm kind of strange with this, but I remember Elliott at the time was a young reporter, and when there's stories that are put out there, a lot of times I'll ask myself, or I'll say like, where's he getting the information from? Because any reporter is either making something up or they're getting information from somewhere. And if they're getting information from somewhere, it could be true, or it could be BS to help spread a rumor or something like that, right? So ESP was getting these little nuggets, nothing big. But let me share this. And by the way, let me say this. I've never talked to Elliott about this, and I consider Elliott a friend, like a good friend. I love Elliott. Elliott's one of the favorite people that I've ever worked with. I love Elliott. I think he's great.
Do you have ties with Elliott, or are you affiliated with Elliott?
I have ties with Elliott. I would say that I am certainly affiliated with Elliott. I love Elliott. I think Elliott does a great job, and I think he got a total shit end of the stick here. But so this story right here, I'm going to share it. I want you to look at it. No, I got to put no thanks here. So for whatever reason, this is weird. I remember this, and I got to stream down this. And I don't know why I still remember this 10 years later. But Elliott on March 10th, so this is like 2.5 weeks before Deshawn got released and the story got released, Elliott reported that the Eagles had interest in Nolan Carroll from signing him from the Miami Dolphins. And I remember seeing that, and it was March 10th, and the Eagles actually had it on their website. This is PhiladelphiaEagles.com. That is this saying, Elliott Shore-Parks is reporting that the Eagles have shown interest in 27-year-old Nolan Carroll.
Aren't they reporting it themselves by doing that? Just
right, which is very, very weird that they would do that. So I see that, and I'm like, who's Elliott? He was a young reporter at the time, and I'm like, wonder where he's getting this information from, because that's clearly coming. When they signed him, I'm like, shit, he was right. Because a couple days later, they signed him, and no one else had Nolan Carroll on the radar. It was like totally. So someone was giving him nuggets. So he was getting like this. So you think
they were setting it up?
They were setting him up.
They were setting him up.
They were setting him up. And I'm telling you, I've never talked to Elliott about this, but I felt like this the whole time. All of a sudden, he's comes out of nowhere, and he's getting these small stories, and then boom, a bombshell that honestly wasn't even written by him. The editor, Elliott's talked about this, the editor, AJ Perez, and Elliott, because Elliott was the beat writer of the Eagles. AJ Perez was the seasoned writer. He was the veteran writer. The editor was a long time. Like, Elliott gets the shit end of the stick for this because it became Elliott Shore-Parks' story. He ended up being the scapegoat for this entire story, and the Eagles used him. Again, this is in my opinion. The Eagles used him and set him up. All of that information that was put out there was put up on a tee.
Premeditated.
Put it out there. Oh my God. The whole thing was premeditated and it was set up by the Eagles. So,
Shady, shady.
yep, yeah,
Literally.
literally, literally. So, and look what it did. It divided the fan base. There were a lot of people that were like, "He's in a gang. What do you want him to do?" Right.
That's
Meanwhile,
definitely where I was at.
yeah, for sure. And then how long did it take you before? And by the way, I'm sure Deshawn was a pain in the ass. And I'm not telling you that Chip wasn't wrong for maybe not wanting to deal with him, but you can't put something out there like that. And Deshawn talked about it where he said that it was after he got released, he said that it was misleading. The story was misleading. Period. He didn't deny allegations of knowing this person or knowing that person. It was misleading. The fact that he won't put JACK tells you that like there's a certain culture that he grew up in where that's just not something that you do, and that's not something I will ever understand, and I'm not going to kill him for it at all. I'm not. But so I always thought like that LA got even to this day like he's taking major shit today, and I started to text him. I don't know if he was in England and Spain the last couple of days. Well, the
Oh, that would
text
suck. You're
right,
sitting on vacation in Europe and you just get all these notifications, your name blowing up, and you're like, I didn't even do anything.
right. Well, there you go, Ellie. No, and it's true. Well, he was the Eagles reporter, so it was him that yes, he was the one that was doing interviews and things like that on the story. And Sean, him not throwing a football in his life, I'm okay. Like, has Zach Berman thrown footballs in his life? I don't know. Anyway,
I don't think Howie Roseman could throw a football, and he's the GM of our team. So,
so let me see what this says here. They set him up. He's a professional member of the media. Yeah, but see, Jonathan, here's the thing. Go back and look at the story and tell me what was not factual. It's factual. Everything's factual. It's conjecture, though. None of it really means anything. Right? Like go back, do yourself a favor, Google it if you believe that, and go back. See, here's what I'll say about it. That in the moment, and he's an inexperienced journalist who is with a veteran editor and a veteran writer, and they're getting a story that's more or less being given to them, and they took it. And I think anybody in that same situation would have done it. And I think you're being naive to think that you're saying like, well, go fact check it. You don't know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, you're a young writer getting your first big break. You want to just be like, you're going.
As Elliott said in interviews, this was like the entire website was working. The NJ.com, the entire operation was working on this story. This wasn't, this isn't Woodward and Bernstein that are doing, this was the entire thing. So, like, I'm not telling you Elliott shouldn't take shit because ultimately it's his story. He's one of the people. He's the lead person on the story. Then, like, I'm not, whatever. But let's not act like these are made up things. Just go back and read it. Like I did the second and third and the fourth and the fifth time. It doesn't really say anything. All right. But anyway, so let's play Delco Steve. Do we have the Deshawn where he talks about the story? We have a bunch of cuts here from because it dropped at 8:00 this morning. The first, is this the first episode of the
yeah,
I don't honestly know either.
Honestly, this is the first I heard about it today was when you started texting me about it. And I was like, oh, they
might be the last we hear about it. Might be the last we hear about it too. But
anyway, if this is their first show, this is guns a-blazing for our first show.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I hope they're not like Stephen A. Smith who led with Allen Iverson and then had nothing afterwards. But here's Deshawn talking about the whole story.
Was able to really express how I feel on this. And to me, I just didn't really understand the picture they painted on me. And it was like really sitting back now, it was like, bro, you really released me off of allegations, bro. And like that was a coward move, bro. Like that was really like you were scared of a powerful young black man that you couldn't really relate to. And it was all off of a story that was dropped. Yeah. Wow, like they really finna release me on this, bro. Man, like I really couldn't even look my own mother in her face during this time. I think that affected me my whole career, bro. It's always affected me. And still to this day, I'm still trying to put my best foot forward and show these guys like, I'm not a hoodlum or like, I grew up and I hang with certain individuals, but does that make me a bad person?
Right.
You literally like tarnished a young kid that was innocent, that didn't do nothing but do right for people. And like I said, I speak on me having a big heart. Like my heart is bigger than every. Like you can ask, like if you need, I'm gonna help you if I can help you. Like especially if you my boy, I'm gonna take you on a plane. I'm gonna take you places you never been.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like sometimes like I'm almost like crucified for that and having that big heart.
All right, so I mean, I don't know Deshaun well. I'm not going to pretend to sit here and to know him well. His rookie year with the Eagles, he did a show on what was at the time 9:50 a.m. Deshawn Jackson show from the Aloft Hotel down by the airport, and him and his so he had this guy that he rolled with that was his friend from school, and he ended up, and I actually in the story I'll explain later, but like he had this like big, almost like Samoan afro, and they used to get taken by a limo. Limo would pick him up, and then they would take him to this hotel for the Deshawn Jackson show. And it'd be like Cheech and Chong when they would get out of the limo. Like I'm not gonna bullshit, and so like and I just remember, but like that was one of his boys from home, and I always remember that cat for whatever reason. And Deshaun was good with the people. He was good. Deshaun was never a problem. Now, like, was he a pain in the ass and everything else? I'm sure. So fast forward to when he came back and he retired as an Eagle. And I did a bunch of stuff with him for Miller Lite. And we went around, I think we did like 8 bars over the course of a week. And when he walked in the WIP, he came in the studio and he's like, yo, man, he didn't remember my name, but he remembered me. He's like, what's going on? And then I see the Afro dude, but he doesn't have the Afro anymore. And I'm like, I remember you. And he kind of like looked at me like, oh shit, what did I do? And I'm like, you used to be with Deshaun. And he's like, yeah, I've been with him forever. Like that's his boy from way back. So he was a guy that he was a really, really talented football player. I think he played in college, but then he got into some off the field problems. But Deshaun, and we're talking about now, when did Deshaun get drafted? 2007? Right?
Yeah, it was after TO, obviously. So.
Yeah. So we're talking about 17 years later. This dude's still with Deshaun and is still like traveling with him and stuff like that. And this dude's a good dude too. So anyway, he does have a big heart, and he's not like Deshaun is not a bad dude. So do we have and the other thing he said, let's bring up the one with Rock Carmichael, because one of the things, if you remember during this, and this is what made it all so bad, the good old boys, and God forbid anybody say anything about Jason Kelce. And this isn't a rip on Jason Kelce, but do you remember who Jason Kelce used to hang out with down at the shore?
Didn't he hang out with Cooper?
Riley Cooper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I called them the good old boys. Because who was that lineman that was a free agent lineman that was offensive lineman? He ended up being really good.
Todd Harriman's?
No, not Harriman's. It was someone in comments will know. He came from the Ravens, and I think he went to the Cardinals afterwards. Evan Mathis. Thank you, Corey. Yeah, so I remember Evan Mathis being down there, and because I remember seeing him, and I did player shows with Riley Cooper, and that dude got after it. I mean, he'd be doing shots on a Monday night during the season after player shows, like not a shot, shots. So you would have, well, I don't know, but yeah, but like multiple. So Riley Cooper, Evan Mathis, not Desean and Shady, or you know what I mean. So like I remember calling them the good old boys. So Riley Cooper goes to that concert and screams the M word on video, and he gets a contract extension. Deshaun gets a story put out about him and gets released, and now everybody says he's a gang member. Shady gets traded. So here is
writing's kind of on the wall on that one.
Writing's on the wall. And so here is, I think we have a couple of these cuts. So they're talking about, he was a corner. I don't know how many years he played for the Eagles. They didn't even remember his name, but it was Rock Carmichael. Here's a story that Shady and Deshaun talk about.
I had a coach, right, that was scared or not even scared. I'm going to say uncomfortable. I never met a coach that was uncomfortable with dealing with black players, because let's just not hide it, right? Most of the players are black. NFL was dominated by black players. So, and there's a lot of white coaches, right?
Yeah.
But it was weird that you uncomfortable. I'll give you some examples why I feel like that. Do you remember the cornerback? I forget his name. Black dude had a crazy nappy head, right? That was his thing. His hair was, he never brushed that shit.
Maxwell, right.
His, Mark Carmichael, something like that. He went to Virginia Tech as a cornerback.
Yep.
True story. Chip calls him in the office. Now, he going to talk to him because he's not a big player. He calls him in the office, right? And he says, now this kid is a good kid, smart. He's dark as night, right? Black kid. Hair's always nappy, right? That's his look.
Right.
He tells him in the meeting, yo, I want you to be more presentable. He says, what do you mean be more presentable? I want you to, cut your hair, man. Get a look like, like maybe like a Shady's haircut or he telling the man to cut his hair. We in the pros. This ain't college. Mm-hmm. The dude came, how I know the story, because he came down to me like, yo, man, can you believe Chip told me he want to be more presentable, cut my hair, this, and that, and the third.
Yeah, that was
He's
crazy.
uncomfortable, bro, with working with black players. That's a prime example.
Yep. Totally screwed up. And you know what? He's uncomfortable. Like DeMarco Murray, he was fine with DeMarco Murray, right? DeMarco Murray was like very, very businesslike, big, double-breasted suits.
Clean cut.
Yep. He didn't have a problem signing him, but Shady, who like any type of an urban type player, black player, Chip wanted nothing to do with. I think that was pretty clear. Was it Ron Darby that? No, it wasn't Ron Darby. Yeah, I mean, someone said this earlier. Can you believe that Riley Cooper got a contract extension and survived it?
It's like I said to you, I think when he came up a couple weeks ago, my most memorable thing about Riley Cooper, besides that story, is him laying down in the end zone on the kick. It's like, that guy was so expendable, it's not even funny. Like, you could have replaced him with anybody. They're like, but he's a good blocker. Well, then get a freaking tight end in there to block. It's like, you didn't need to sign him to an extension and bring that controversy into the locker room.
Yeah, that was 2013. He got a contract extension that offseason. By the way, like, Riley Cooper as a player was fine. Yeah, he was a backup wide receiver. Like, for being a backup wide receiver, he was fine. He wasn't great. He had some pretty good games. He was fine. But he gets a contract extension, and Deshawn gets some story that is literally planted to make him to literally, so he gets out of town and the team doesn't get a lot of shit for it. Unbelievable. So, like, how do you think Deshawn felt all these years about it?
I mean, he's got to be a little sick, because then what goes to Washington after that, and
he killed the Eagles after he left.
It's just like, I don't know, but it's like, he's got to think his career is so much better in Philly going forward, obviously, than it would have been, honestly would have turned out to be the rest of his career.
Well, with Chip just wanted him gone. He wanted Shady gone too. So do we have the Shady cut where he's talking about the trade?
Yes.
All right. So here's Shady talking about, because do you remember what people said about, because I even bought into it. We were so fucking drunk on the Chip Kelly nonsense.
Oh, I 100% was.
And like and believe me, it changed quick for me after the Desean and Shady stuff. I was like, this guy's full of crap. But the story with Shady was he danced too much. In Chip's offense, you need a guy that's going to take one cut and go.
Straight edge.
And he danced too much. And you don't need him. He's slowed down or whatever. Meanwhile, when you look at the numbers he put up, the dude put up all-time franchise numbers.
And we talked about that before. He had 2 great years with Buffalo after that.
I think he rushed for 1,600 yards the one year. Right? And by the way, Shady the dude is a lot different than Deshawn the dude. I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of LaShawn at all. But he was a great player. And again, like, any coach or GM has the right to trade a player. And I think with LaShawn, it was a little bit different, because there wasn't a story that came out that, like, LaShawn had a lot of stuff going on. If you remember the after hours thing where something happened with a cop and the women that they threw off the bus. He had 1,607 yards in 2013. Unbelievable. Yeah. So Chip got rid of a guy that had 3,000 rushing yards in 2 years and was only 26. Idiot. So here's Shady talking about. Did we just play it? Shady talking about the trade? We didn't.
No.
Yeah, so the whole thing was Shady, and I'll raise my hand. I bought into it that Shady was like, no, you don't need Shady. Shady dances too much, whatever. The fan base bought into it again.
Oh, and they sold you with bringing in DeMarco Murray right away too. So it's like, oh well, are we really taking that much of a drop off in running back? Plus, we're getting a linebacker that just had however many tackles for whatever many years in a row.
Shakiko Alonso, who was like, he's like the size of a corner. Shakiko.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Anthony and I used to call him Shakiko because we hated him.
I forgot all about because he always wore the crop tops.
He wore the crop top and he had the long hair in the back. He looked like a college football player from the 80s.
Yep.
I forgot
all about that.
But anyway, here's Shady talking about the whole thing.
He called me, he said, Shady, I'm in Miami training. He says, this is not a joke. That's the first thing he says to me. He don't even say hello. Shady, it's not a joke. The Eagles are trading to the Buffalo Bills. I say, man, hey, stop playing, man. What you want, man? What you want, Drew? I'm busy. He said, I'm not playing, Shady. They're trading you. I'm like, they trading me? The next thing I say is, who are they trading me for? I'm thinking 2 second rounders, a good player, this, that, third. He says, Kiko Alonso. I take a pause. I say, who is that? I said, let me look him up. Hold on, True. How you spell that? How you spell that shit? Okay. Who is this dude? I don't know who this dude is. You know where he went to school at?
Where?
Oregon.
He went to Oregon?
Oregon.
He was an Oregon guy?
Bro.
Wow.
This dude is crazy. And that was the first time I ever been basically like, yo, you're not good enough. We don't want you. And I was like, is it my football?
You felt that's what the Eagles felt about you?
I mean, you tell me. You trading me for a bag of chips and
I don't think it would be you wasn't good enough.
But no. But hold on. That's the way you perceive it. But I'm saying is
no, that's what you're saying. Chips feeling.
It had to be. Because think about it. Bro, I led the league in rushing the year before, all pro, right? First team and all that. The next year, dog, I was third in rushing. He said I had a decline year. You didn't send me to Buffalo. You thought it was the best move for your team. You sent me there to die.
True. I agree. And
he didn't.
No, he didn't. No, like it's Chip, unfortunately, and he's been exposed to the total fraud. It didn't take very long, but you're not in college anymore, so you can't recruit a certain player to your program. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't say, hey, I'm not going to draft players that have checkered past or whatever, or concerns off the field or whatever. Excuse me. He didn't draft these guys, but I mean, he pretty much said anybody that he feels like isn't 100% on board with his program or doesn't look a certain way. Yeah. Doesn't look a certain way or whatever else is gone. And Desean and Shady were number 1 and number 2 on that list.
Yeah. And obviously they're big locker room presence as well. So if you think they're going to draw a crowd and draw a following, then obviously they're going to be the first two guys you go after.
Yep, for sure. And the great thing about Andy is that Andy knows how to handle all of his players. He realizes it's not one size fits all. Everybody's different. Every position's different. Every player's different. You got guys. I talked about this forever. When you're talking about 53 guys plus injured reserve, now you have a practice squad and during training camp and everybody else, it's a melting pot. You have guys that are from all over.
You have 80, 90 different personalities going on at any given time.
We were earlier talking about people that are from the West Coast or from Texas that grew up in the gang culture. How about people that are from the Bible Belt that like hardcore Christians? You're Catholic. I grew up being Catholic. I'm agnostic. I'm you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Like I'm not reading about the Bible. I'm not going to church or whatever. Like religion's very important to a certain portion of people that are on a team. So you have all these different kind of groups of players, and Chip didn't know how to deal with any of them. It's either you're how I like it or else, or you're gone. Do you have the one where they start calling everybody just on the phone and asking about? This is hilarious.
This is great.
This is great. So they pick up their cell phone and they just start calling people and putting it up to the microphone. Here it is.
Jay Peters, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear Chip Kelly?
Bullshit ass guy, man.
BG.
What up, man?
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about Chip Kelly, bro?
You know, he was very selfish. Didn't want to give up too much power in the league. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
What's the first thing you think of Chip Kelly when you hear that name, bro?
Trash.
Let's go.
Do you remember when the Eagles were trying to retain Macklin and he went to Kansas City?
I mean, I remember it happening, but are you talking about semantics then, though?
Well, no, like it came down to, at least it came down to, he was a free agent. The Eagles were trying to get him, and the Chiefs ended up signing him. And then you hear that he was never going to resign with Chip Kelly because Chip was still in charge.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you see the hindsight being 2020. It was just like, oh, yeah, it was the Chiefs were the only decision he was ever going to make.
Yep. Yeah. Looking at it right now, there's no way he's going back to Chip Kelly. I just remember so many players talking about after he left how they'd be walking down the hallway at NovaCare. And I mean, I guess it could be awkward. It's never awkward with me, but if you're walking down the hallway of like an office building or something and like someone else is walking like towards you, a lot of times people just have their heads buried in their phones or whatever. But Chip would never make eye contact with people or say anything. These are his players.
They just walk right by him.
Walk right by him without anything and not even looking at him. Now, I'll chalk this up to, I think Chip is somewhere, and I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this callously or in a cavalier way, but Chip's somewhere on the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like he's somewhere on the relating to people, and
yeah, I can see that.
You know what I mean? Like I've always felt that way with Chip. So I don't think it was easy for him. A lot of this stuff was easy for him because he was so, like, if you think about it, that stupid hurry up, which was, he didn't even have an offense. Everybody thought he was this offensive genius and guru. He didn't have an offense. By year 2, they were calling out the plays.
Yeah, because he only had 6 plays.
He had 6 plays, and once the league figured out just fake injuries and don't let them keep the hurry up, and then they'll go 3 and out. They'll be off the field after 10 seconds, and their defense is cooked. And then you have Billy Davis as the defensive coordinator who sucked.
Oh, my God. I forgot all about that, dude. Thanks for ruining my night.
Right, Billy Davis.
Everyone bitched about Jonathan Gannon for a couple of years. Let's go back to that era and think about that defense and that defensive coordinator. And then
I always bring it up.
Gannon at me.
I always bring it up with Jim Schwartz. I was never the biggest Jim Schwartz fan, but what you saw year 1 of Jim Schwartz was, all right, we got a defensive coordinator, right? Because he was coming off of Billy Davis, and it's like Billy Davis didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He was in over his head. He was a linebackers coach in college not that long ago, and I don't even think he's still there.
Him and Juan Castillo are like the two, totally outmatched for what you were asking them to do.
No, totally agree. And I felt bad for Juan because they should have never allowed him to be put in that position. But anyway, so like he makes bad hires like that. God, I can't stand Chip Kelly. He's an offensive coordinator in college, and he's lucky to have that job. So he's making. You believe that loser took a couple $1 million less to leave UCLA to be an offensive coordinator in college? It's amazing.
I still don't understand that move. That dude makes no sense to me.
That's
especially because UCLA didn't fire him. They literally didn't fire him because they beat USC, and all the reports were like, "Oh, he's done, and then he beats USC," and they're like, "All right, well, we'll keep you."
Well, they hated him, and he hated them and wanted out.
They let all these guys get hired, and then fired him, and it's like, all right, well, now what are you doing?
No, he just left.
That's what I mean. Then he leaves.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm telling you, and again, remember earlier I was talking about like, all right, well, where was Elliott getting this information from? There was a bunch of stuff put out there by the pawns in the NFL that were like, Chip Kelly, teams
wants to be an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator, Seattle, Chip Kelly, this team, Chip Kelly. His agent's putting this out there to these loser NFL insiders to try to get him a job. He wanted out that bad. He would have taken any job. He took an offensive coordinator job. Now, it's at Ohio State, which is a high-profile job, but no one's hiring this loser anymore. Not a real program.
Which is crazy now because UCLA is now in the Big Ten, too. So it's an interconference move, too, now.
Dude, he left UCLA entering the Big Ten.
Yep.
Because he knew he was exposed. Now, by the way, he didn't do a bad job at UCLA. UCLA blows, right? Like
they're not the program they used to be.
No, and he got the hell out of there. Anyway, so what do we have? Do we have any left from it, or is that it?
I believe that was it.
All right. Well, geez, I'll tell you, it was an interesting first episode. If that is the first episode.
How do you think the players in like Ohio State locker room are reacting to these things coming out today with Chip Kelly because like they're probably in spring practice and shit.
Well, here's the difference: they're in college.
Well, I know, but
and he's not the head coach.
But still, I'm just saying, like, you hear these things from these two, and you're like, all right, you're the black kid on the team, and you're like, oh, well, dude,
it's not good.
It's like, are they going to play the white receiver over me, or this, that, and the other thing, or?
I think as a coordinator, you can get away with it because he has no real control, but it's not good. Will it hurt recruiting? Yeah, I think it could hurt recruiting. But with NILs and these kids getting paid, who knows? No, he's just honestly, Chip is perfect for this brand of college football where kids are now legally getting paid and he's leaving a head coaching job to be an offensive coordinator. He is such a loser. And I'm embarrassed that we bought into his nonsense. And we took that to Sean's story and we were like, all right, Shady, see ya. I mean, Eagles fans were mean to Shady on the way out the door. They really were. I mean, we were, and I'll include myself in this. Yeah. We were like, all right, see you, Shady. We don't need you. Chip's a genius. You weren't all that good.
I do still have moments of if he had the right quarterback and I think it would work. I still think it would have worked. But overall, I think he's a total ass. Yes, I do. But I think if he had the right, like if Vic in his prime kind of thing, like holy shit, or like even a couple like years where Vic was out of the league, like if he was healthy and playing in that time frame, like oh my god, that offense could have been something.
So like if you remember, Nick had the 27-2 year.
Yep.
With Chip. Chip, when he first came into the league, had a lot of success for two reasons. One, he was new to the league. Two, look at the skill guys he had on that team. Deshawn Jackson, Macklin.
Yep.
Shady. Who was the tight end at the time? They have a good tight end.
It was Selleck.
Yeah, Selleck, a young Selleck. So you had like Nick Foles, who actually in a bottle had a really good year. You had Vic a little bit before that. So, I mean, that's why it didn't last.
Well, the first Chip Kelly game was against Washington, and it was the first play was the Vic 70-yard bomb to Deshawn.
I'll never forget it, man.
I was working at my pizza place in college at the time, and I'm sitting there I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this game here. And I was like, and there was no one out. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. I get to watch the game by myself. It's fantastic.
I was at the Penthouse Club for work with Harry Mays. And I'll never, probably the last time I did a strip club appearance too. After that one, I'm like, you know what? I was dating my wife. So I was just like, nah, like at the time it's like, listen, this is like how I make money by doing all these appearances. But then I stopped doing that after a while. So, that was 2010 Monday night game.
That was the first game. But that was the first game with Vic, wasn't it?
Yeah. Steve's not talking about with Chip. He's talking about just the first game you saw with Vic. Yeah, because Vic wasn't very good. Vic got hurt, and that's how Nick Foles got the job with Chip, right? Yeah. Anyway, just searching the comments here. I thought I saw something. All right, so you have that. All right. So what else did I want to get to here for a second? All right. So did you see what our new rookie has done?
No.
Saying that one-on-one he can beat Caitlyn Clark.
No.
In basketball. Cooper DeJean.
Oh, he's probably friends with her.
So they both
he probably knows he can beat her one-on-one.
So he's on with Kay Adams. I don't want to play the thing because then I may actually try to start monetizing these. But so he's on with Kay Adams. And did you see the video of him playing ball?
No. But he's a freak athlete. So.
I got to find it right now while we're talking. No, dude, because he's not that tall, but all he wants to do is dunk on people.
I mean, he's what, 6 foot, 6'1"?
I think he's probably 6'1". All right, let me see. Basketball videos. I don't want a really long one. I saw one on. Yeah, it was like on Instagram or something. And it was like a minute long, and all he was doing was here. Let me try to play this one right here.
Just got that.
And I don't have premium anymore, so I get the ads. All right, here we go. right, let me try to share it. Here we go. It's all he does on like every play, and it's just like a 6-minute video of him throwing down.
Floats.
Dude, it's unbelievable. Some of the guys just have.
And he's going to throw it.
Watch, here he goes, right? Well, now he's shooting threes. Everything that I saw was just him. Here he goes, like, do. Yeah, so like this dude's.
He's yoked up too.
Yeah, man, he's an athlete. It's awesome. So, so he's on with Kay Adams, and he says he can beat her 1-on-1. So he did say afterwards, because he was interviewed afterwards, he did say that Caitlyn Clark heard about it and texted him. So I really hope this happens. And I saw some odds out there on it.
So my thing is, this conversation's actually come up a few times in the last month or so. It's like, can I beat Caitlyn Clark in basketball? Absolutely freaking not.
No, of course not.
No, she's got freaking 4 inches on me easy, if not more.
I think she's 6'2".
And I thought she was 6 foot flat, but whatever.
Is she? Oh, I could be wrong. What do I know?
I think I looked it up, and I think she was 6 foot even. But she got a minimum 4 inches on me, and she can shoot the freaking lights out. I don't
6 foot, you're right.
But if you get a guy who's 6'3" and can play a little bit of basketball, then I don't know, I think you got a shot. Like, this guy's obviously a freak athlete.
For sure. All right. So, and by the way, just so I can say this, I don't know if people saw this. So Iowa, they found her replacement, Caitlyn Clark's replacement. It's my neighbor who is a star at Villanova, Lucy Olson. Lucy Olson, who is like one of the best players in the nation. So she transferred out of Villanova, and she's in Iowa this year. This just happened a couple weeks ago. I didn't see her parents for like somebody else was walking the dogs. They walk past my house every day, and I talked to her dad, and they weren't gone. Like, I didn't see them, and I'm like, oh, that's why she transferred to Iowa. Iowa women's basketball is bigger than men's basketball, and they have a good program out there. Franny McCaffrey, Delco's own, has been out there a long time.
Yes, sir.
Anyway.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be them and USC again this year. USC got a transfer too from somebody, like another big name. Somebody got
paid. All right. Anyway, so right. What do you think the odds are between Cooper and Caitlyn Clark 1-on-1? And God, would I love to see this happen.
What are we playing to like 11?
So it's an online casino that
you actually have an odd.
I have an actual odd that you can bet on right now. So it said
is it just to win? Like
yeah, there's no line. There's no
okay. Line. She's favored -155.
The odds equate to Desean having an 88% probability of winning. He's -700.
He's -700?
Here's the quote from the brand manager of Bet Online. In actuality, the odds should be even higher on Cooper's side. However, we know we'll get action on Caitlyn at 4-1, so no reason to give more value to her bettors. It's a Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor type of odds setting situation. Everyone would back the underdog at any number because of the hype. Yeah. Which actually makes a lot of sense. They don't think that she would stand a chance. Now, if we're talking about a half-court game, like, why couldn't she just start draining jumpers?
Right. If she makes every shot, it could easily happen. She doesn't have to body him.
Yeah, like everybody just expects, because he is a superb athlete, that he's just.
He's probably faster. He's probably faster than her, but like, she could shake him and get a shot off. It's not.
All right, is it make it take it? That's my only question. Is it make it take it? Because if it's make it take it, she could just hit 7 shots in a row.
Right.
You don't have to be more athletic or be able to body him down low, but if you have great basketball skills, it'd be easy for her to drain a couple of shots.
Right.
So I'd have to see.
I would take the 4-1. Screw it. Screw it.
Of course you would. Yeah, who wants to take a -700 odds?
Yeah.
No way. That's not
if you gave, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you, like, honestly, I think I thought she'd be favored just based on the fact that, because of the hype and everyone being like, oh yeah, no, like whatever. And
All right, so
but like
so
if
put
you
it in
gave
the
me a
comments.
line now,
Yeah, put it in the comments who they think would win. Yeah, like I'm not the guy. There's so many guys out there that are like, oh, I would. She's a woman. She's a girl. I could beat her at basketball. Yeah,
I
so they
got
drain every shot on you.
I got a good one for you. I have multiple friends that think they could beat Ronda Rousey in a fight. And I'm like, Ronda Rousey would beat the living piss out of me. Like, she would kill me. Like, it wouldn't even be a fight. But like, I have friends that be like, no, I could beat her in a fight. I'm like, she will flip you on her back and snap your arm. Like, it's like, how do you think she grew up fighting dudes? Like, there weren't women that were fighting her because she was kicking all their asses.
Right. Yeah. If you're just a dude who thinks he's tough, she does mixed martial arts. Yeah, she'll break your arm. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, no. I know a little bit of what I'm doing, and she would
dude, any of those top MMA women would kill you.
Oh, all of them. Any of them could. Like 100%.
Yeah. So like the Serena thing, the women's tennis is definitely like that. If you look at the velocity on serves, it's a significant difference between that. But what I'm saying is like in basketball, it's not just about right. Like velocity on shots and strength on shots in tennis is a huge thing. It's about the first to 11 in basketball. I don't know. I wasn't surprised that Cooper was the favorite. I was surprised it was minus 700.
No, well, I'm very much surprised it's that big.
So Vince says that, and Vince is 6'8", that he would take Ronda. What do you think?
I think she's still got a shot.
Well,
I mean, but like he's
maybe not now. I don't know what Ronda Rousey's doing now.
I'm talking like when she's in her prime, or even shortly after when she lost it a little bit. Or actually, when she lost it, it wasn't a little bit. But
yeah, and she also she also lost it mentally. You become a big star, and
that was there was like a whole story talking about saying that like she never like lost. So when she finally took that kick to the face and got knocked out, it was like a culture shock to her. She thought she was never gonna lose. So she like had it in her head that she was unbeatable, yada 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 yada. So then when she lost, it was like a shock to her system.
Yep. But here's the problem, and here's why if I was placing a bet, I would put a bet on Caitlyn Clark. Again, like if it's make it take it, I would definitely put it on Caitlyn Clark. Because all you need is a missed shot. And then if Caitlyn Clark's just kind of out of the perimeter, and then he pushes up on her, and then she just kind of does this sly little move and goes by her, you don't have to be more athletic. Defensively, it would be tough, Corey. I totally don't disagree with that. Defensively, it would definitely be tough. But he's also like, he didn't play college basketball. He probably could have, but it's not like he played college basketball. This might be the best women's basketball player ever that we're talking about. So anyway. All right. Well, there you have it. So I thought like, I would love to see it. I don't know if,
I mean, they got to be friends. Like, you got to think about it. Like, because they're two of the biggest names at their campus. They're probably in like athletic training rooms like all the time together. So it's probably a tongue-in-cheek thing too. It's like, I tell her all the time I'm going to beat her, or I can beat her, like sort of thing.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go. What else do we have here? I wanted to talk about the radio stuff that was going on. Did you see the union signed a 14-year-old today?
No, I did not.
I saw a little bit of it, and then I saw it again, and I'm like, oh, this is actually a pretty big deal. He's a local kid. Kayvon Sullivan's 14. Where did I have the story? I think I had it. So anyway, he's 14 years old, but he's also like the best American soccer prospect. And part of his deal with the union is when he turns 18, he'll be property of Manchester United in the Premier League. So the big teams in Europe also, not only is he on their radar, he's like, we want that kid right there. So in the union have him. He's going to play at 14.
Who is
Freddie Adu.
Thank you.
Freddie Adu was also 14 when he played or when he was signed by DC United. He flamed out.
Yeah.
He never turned into anything.
Yeah, no, nothing.
But this kid's supposedly a stud. So he's been a part of the union. They have their feeder
Fennel?
system. Yeah. When they're young kids. So he's been a part of them growing up. So Jim Curtin was able to get it done. That's awesome. I love this. This is great. So anyway,
is he playing like this season, like this summer?
I think they'll get him in this year. Yeah. I mean, maybe we have some soccer fans on the chat that know better than us. But yeah, I mean,
I'll be interested to see.
Yeah. I was thinking about it today. I'm like, man, I'd like to take my kids down to one of the games just because it's so totally different than anything else that you'll go to.
I haven't been to a Union game. I keep saying
really?
I want to go. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
I keep saying I want to go.
It is, man, it's amazing. It really, and you're not even that far. You could be there in 15 minutes.
I drive. I one of our tile places is right down in that area, so I drive by the stadium all the time, and I've never seen it with people in it.
Do you like tailgating?
Of course I do.
It's a great tailgate. It's a fun tailgate. There's not it's intense, but it's also it's never like in an Eagle game when you're facing a rival and there's fights or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it gets intense with the fans, and sometimes you'll see some stuff that shouldn't happen. But like it's a great experience. And I don't know anything about the Union, but I've been
neither do I.
Maybe a half dozen games, and I've sat first row. I've sat up in the booth. I sat in other seats, and it's an amazing experience. It really is, and it makes me when I saw Elliot was over in Europe, and he's been to Premier League games. I totally want to do that. Maybe when you go over, you can see a soccer game there.
I wish there would be time for that. We thought about when we did the Eagles trip. We thought about going to Tottenham Stadium to watch a game on the day the Eagles weren't playing, and really? It was just like the ticket was like just as much as the Eagles ticket was.
Yeah,
and it was just a regular season Premier League game.
I heard Albert Breer. I heard the NFL Insider. I heard him. He was over there, and he talked about how he had to pull strings to go. I don't know if it was Man U or but it was a Premier League team, and he was like, their tickets just aren't available. He had to pull strings to even he paid for it too. But
right.
Anyway. And Corey, the reason I said Freddie Adu was the article that I read earlier talked about Freddie Adu being older than the Sullivan kid. That's the only reason that I knew it.
Yeah, I knew it was something with a three-letter last name, but I was like, I would never have been able to pull that out of my ass.
Yeah, so I think Man U, I think the Union are set to make like $5 million or something like that. Like Man U will acquire his rights for $5 million, I think. Is what it is.
It's probably more than that.
Well, no, this is what I believe. This is what I read. He can also, when he's 16, he can also go play in Germany. So this may only be 14 and 15. And then what these kids do is like he'll go to Germany like part of the time, and then he'll come back and do stuff with the Union or whatever. So, but yeah, so at 16, he's able to go play in Germany if he wants to go over and play in Europe.
Well, isn't this kind of what happened with Pulisic? He went to Germany at 16.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Yeah. So I would doubt that if there's opportunities for him to go over there that he won't. But yeah, the Union are going to make money from it, which is
well, as long as he's someone good enough to be on the national team and one of these World Cups where he can actually make a run.
So the under 16 team beat England in I think it was the championship or whatever, and I think he had 2 goals. He had both goals in the game. So when you look at it, every international game that playing, he is very much either scoring or assisting on the goals. So
love it.
All right, let's become soccer fans.
I was saying we got 2 years World Cups here.
Yeah, man, let's go. All right, this summer we need to go to a Union game.
I'm in. My buddies and I have been talking about it for at least 2 summers now.
Really?
And it just the dates are like it's not like a normal football schedule or baseball.
They don't play on good nights. I agree.
It's like random. It's like they'll be like, oh, there's not a home game for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so. It's like, all right, well, you get a day that you have something set up already. You're screwed for the.
No, you're right because I was trying to take my girls down, and this was last year, and I looked at so every game's like 7:30. It's like 7:30. There's no afternoon games. Why?
Yeah, like I think the one game we looked at like last year it was like, oh, there was going to be an afternoon game, and we were all available, and then it was like 100 degrees, and it was like, I was
Right.
like, I'm not sitting out there in 100 degrees. Like
Home games, 7:30, 7:30. 7:30, 7:30, 7:30. Everything's 7:30. I got young kids, man. I can't take a game that starts
Right.
in Chester at 7:30. No chance. 8:30 on July 3rd. 8:30. That must be a nationally televised game. So anyway, Miami. No, they're in Miami on that day. Anyway, all right. So we're at the pick.
That's why that's at 8:30. Messy.
Play them. No, so that's a 7:30, September 14th. That's a long season because they take these breaks and they have those stupid in-season tournaments that no one understands or cares about. Whatever.
Yeah, I never taken the time to understand how the inner workings of MLS.
MLS does not suck. See, I disagree. If you are a true soccer fan that follows European soccer, I don't follow European soccer, and I know that it's not the same caliber of player. I understand that. But the atmosphere does not suck, and the games don't suck. I'll tune into a Union playoff game.
I would say I watch the Union playoff games. Like I'm not tuning in for regular season. Would I go to a regular season game? Hell yes.
Yeah.
But
I don't watch regular season Flyers games.
I'm a every 4 year soccer fan, or I guess every 2 year soccer fan. Olympics.
I love the World Cup too. Yeah, I love the World Cup.
Well, I guess 3 because I get into the Women's World Cup too a little bit, not as much as the men's, but
I get into it more than the men's because they actually have a chance.
Well, see, I'm watching every men's game that I can get my hands on. You know what I mean? But I'm really watching just the women's game, like the USA.
Yeah, no, the overall World Cup. Yeah, you already know United States isn't going to do anything.
Yeah, as soon as the bracket comes out, I'm watching I have it up on my phone at work. It's on the radio. It's I'm locked into that when it's every 4 years.
So my buddy Corey in Columbus, the Columbus Crew won the championship this year.
Yeah, didn't they beat us?
Some did they really? Yeah, I guess they did. Yeah, they lost in the finals. Some people say that Corey enjoyed that championship run more than the Eagles run in 2017. Just saying.
That would definitely get your Birds fandom taken away if that's the case.
All right, so let's talk about this right now, and then I gotta end with something really funny. So there were a lot of moves made at 97.5, and it really wasn't just 97.5. It was all of Beasley Broadcasting Group. So it's where Steve and I both were. It's where I met Steve. He was my intern on the morning show, and so they have WXTU now as well. So Beasley bought the Fanatic and their sister stations, which is 102.9 MGK, 93.3 WMMR, Ben FM, WXTU. What am I missing? Am I missing anybody? Anyway, they have a bunch of AM stations too, but
yeah,
they didn't have these AM stations when we were there. So I worked for Greater Media. I never worked for Beasley. Greater Media wisely sold their stations to Beasley. I remember I had already decided I was leaving the Fanatic, and a notification came over my screen from this industry website that said Greater Media sells the Beasley Broadcasting Group. And I was like, holy shit. Wow. We just got sold. Greater Media was a great company to work for, but it was the beginning of radio. And I'd worked in radio during the recession back in the 2000s. And that's really when it started. And by 2016, Peter Smythe, who ran Greater Media for the family that owned it, decided we're getting out of radio. They owned some newspapers and some other things, but they sold their radio stations, and they were a medium-sized radio owner. They had big stations in Detroit, big stations in Boston, big stations in Philly, and they had a couple. They Jersey Shore stations, and they had some other stations. I think they had 20, 25 stations. So they sold to Beasley. And I remember Matt Nahagian, the program director at the time, said, hey, before Beasley takes over, I want to get you signed to a new contract because who knows what they're going to do. And I'd already decided that I wasn't coming back, and I just was slow playing the contract thing. But I had left, and that's when Beasley settled. So I have actually never worked for Beasley. But anyway, Greater Media wisely got out of the radio industry. So Jen Scordo from The Best Show Ever got laid off. Pat Egan, who was my intern at the Fanatic and somebody that I fought for to be hired from an intern. And I was texting him on a ride home after he got fired. He walked in at 5:51 that day because he figured he was next to get the axe, and he was. So he got let go. Some behind the scenes people for Beasley that I knew from Greater Media days. Todd DeFeo, Greg Monahan. I don't want to leave anybody out that I'm forgetting. I'm talking about really talented, been there for decades. They got laid off. Rhonda Hibbler, who was the production director for me and one of the people that I looked to in the business, she'd been doing radio for 40 years. She was just inducted into the broadcasting pioneers of Philadelphia. She accepted a retirement. In other words, a buyout. Kevin Gunn, who was the longtime creative person that did commercials and things like that, big Villanova fan, he accepted a retirement. Didn't really have a choice. Pancake, who was the producer for Pierre Robert. Steve Vasilati, who was the co-host with Matt Cord on WMGK Mornings that did great ratings. He was my producer at 97.5 The Fanatic. I don't know if you worked with, you probably weren't there with Steve, Delco Steve.
He just moved down the hall.
Did he?
I think so.
when Sean and I went to work with Mornings and Sean was let go, Steve was let go as well, and they hired him down the hall. So he had been John DeBell's producer for, I think, since 2017, and then it was him and Matt for like the last 6 months. He got let go. Who am I missing out here? Regardless, so I and I saw a lot of this, and I understand, but and it's kind of what I was saying when I did the podcast with Crossing Broad after I left WIP, and like I got fired from CBS Sports Radio for saying it, but really what I was trying to do was to explain, like, here's the reason why I'm still not at WIP, and it's because I wanted more money if I was going to continue to do what I was doing because I was really unhappy. And they weren't giving it to me. And here's why they weren't giving it to me. Because the radio business is in shit right now. Odyssey declares for bankruptcy. And when I said it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, it's when Odyssey declares for bankruptcy. Like 10 days later, they declared for bankruptcy. Right? So they're just mad that I said it. But, like radio companies, really media companies in general. I mean, TV, the Comcast Sports, they're not hiring more people, local cable.
Well, dude, there's like a whole thing with like Comcast and Bailey Sports. Like, there's that whole thing too. Like, it's the whole media is falling apart.
They paid billions of dollars for the broadcasting rights to all these teams, and then the pandemic happened, and advertising rates fell flat on their ass. And it's the same thing happened with the radio. They're not regaining the money. And the economy, trust me, the economy blows. Inflation's a real thing. Like, it's not great right now, right? It'll hopefully get better in the next couple of years, but things aren't great right now. And so, like, what happens if you're a radio station and you're losing money and you're a publicly traded company? You get rid of people is what happens. And this is, it's his Delco accent.
Bailey.
It's Bally, but it's how he says it.
Sorry. So, whatever. You understood what I was saying.
I know. I knew. I didn't correct you.
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the comments. You understood it. Just like bomb.
I just roll with it. Anyway, so that's a lot to say. Beasley stock's in the toilet. It's like 77 cents. Odyssey stock, they're delisted. They declared for bankruptcy. So what happens when you're losing money and losing a lot of money? You have to reduce costs, especially when you're a publicly traded company. They're trying to get their stock over $1 so they're not delisted too. So I know people over there. I know everybody over there for the most part. And morale's at an all-time low. And I feel bad for him. I feel bad for Matt Cord. I feel bad for, like, MMR is an extremely successful station that makes a lot of money. It just is. MGK has the highest ratings in just regular persons 6 years old and older of any station in Philadelphia.
I listen to MGK every day at work.
MGK is a great station. They've Andre Gardner's great. Like all the guys are great, right? It's a successful station. But when other stations aren't doing as well and you can't monetize it, what do you want the company to do? Just continue to lose $50 million a year? It's not going to happen. So you know what they do?
This is like the conversation with like Caitlyn Clark, like how come she doesn't get paid as much as the NBA players? It's like, well, the WNBA teams don't make that money to pay the players.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's the same conversation.
It's an economic situation.
Yeah.
What do you want them to do?
Yeah.
Right. So unfortunately, people get screwed. Now, Vince says something about, well, I guess that means they're not bringing Missinelli in. The sad thing about it is all these people that are being laid off, like in 6 months, they'll bring in somebody to like replace Steve Vasilati, and it won't even be at that much of a discount. Like a lot of times to try to tell shareholders that, like, hey, look, we're trying to do something about this. We're reducing costs. We're reducing expense. They did these layoffs the day before their quarterly, and I hope I'm not getting into the weeds too much here, but they were announcing their Q1 2024 Q1 earnings the next day. So they make these cuts, and then the next day they say, well, hey, we didn't do well last quarter, but hey, look at all these cuts that we made. Because they're trying to show Wall Street that, like, hey, we're working on this. We know we're not doing well financially, but we're working on it. They're trying to pump up their stock. And it's just what they'll do. Like Missinelli, they'll still pay Missinelli if that's going to happen. And I still hear that it's on target to happen. But yeah, like that. Like Mike's not going to make $750,000 or whatever he was making when he was running the Fanatic for the, however many years before that. But he's gonna make more money than people that were laid off. Like poor Jen Squirto. I'm not telling you I ever watched the best damn show. Or
best show ever?
Best show ever. I have no interest in watching it, but Jen's a good of a radio person as you're going to find, and I feel badly for her because she certainly didn't deserve the fate. But I'm telling you what happens. Corporate looks at says, all right, we need to get $2 million off the books. So how do you get $2 million off the books? You look at each market and you say, this market needs to take out 500,000. This market needs to take out 250. This market needs to take out 750. This market needs to take out however. And you look at it and you say, all right, Steve Vasilati, yeah, it's a good show. The ratings are going well. We're keeping Matt Cord. We're getting rid of Vasilati. And like, if it hurts the ratings, who cares? Right. And like, I'm not telling you Steve didn't do a great job, but the ratings will probably be around the same.
Yeah.
Like if you get rid of Pancake, who was Pierre Robert's longtime producer, is that going to hurt Pierre's ratings? No. Will the show be as good? Like, will whoever they bring in be as good? No, probably not. But they don't care about that. It's just a line item. It's just a black marker that they're just like, all right, that's 50 grand. That's 75. That's 100. Boom. And that's what happens with Jen Squirto. They're like, well, just bring some other girl in that's making $15 an hour and she's not making 75 and a full-time employee. And that's it.
Yep.
So it sucks.
Yeah. It's like the same thing. It's like what we were talking about the interns. Like somebody else will do it for nothing. It's like, okay, because like people want to do it. So people will take the job for just the sake of being able to say, I have the job.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Who isn't going to bring that up? So anyway, so I feel bad for everybody involved and it sucks, but it's kind of, for us radio people, if you would have told me that radio was going to be where it is right now when I started, I still would have gotten into it because it was amazing. Would I prepared for my exit from radio a little differently? Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have. I'm a little bit surprised that I'm not back on the radio, but most of that is my doing. And, so I had a choice, but yeah, like it sucks because it definitely feels like that because radio is not out of my system and maybe I'm not done forever, but I would totally love to do a hybrid sports show that is kind of, Philly sports, Philly, and then just like whatever else, almost like a Kid Chris,
whatever nonsense. We
could talk nonsense all show long, Delco Steve. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, we do.
And you would be on the show if I did it. So I haven't given up hope that I can do a radio show, but it feels like it might be gone. All right, so that's that. Yeah, it just sucks. It sucks for everybody involved because, you everybody's going to do what they have to do and move on. And I always believe that opportunities open up that you wouldn't have found before. It just sucks when you can't leave on your own terms and you're kind of like blindsided. And it's like, here, you work for this company for 12 years. Here's 2 months severance. Arrivederci. Yep. See you. And it's like,
Good
whatever.
Luck.
And it's what I like the last couple of years. Cause I was always a guy that I would have, they would be like, yeah, here in your contract's 4 weeks vacation. And I'd be like, all right, so like 2 weeks of vacation, I'm never going to use because I need to be on the air. Last couple of years, I used every freaking day of my vacation because I know they will whack me in a second and they're not going to care.
You just can't do it on the prime time slots. You got to do it during baseball season,
I guess. All right. Well, anyway, a lot of questions about the morning show, or not the morning show, the new afternoon show. And I guess Spike and I know Corey was saying earlier that they're not liking Spike right now. But here's what Spike's doing. And again, I haven't listened to it, and it's not because I don't love Spike and I don't think it's a good show. It's just like I'm not in the car and I'm not listening. But Spike is right now, he's like fighting with all of the, like Mickey says, he's garbage right now. And Chris from Pennsauken he hung up with, and he was out of line with Andy right now. You guys are also talking about it, which is exactly what he wants. He's totally like, if he just comes on and is nice to callers, you think I was nice to Andy from Deptford? Or I didn't feud with Chris and Pennsauken. I made sure that I wasn't always going to be nice with those guys. I needed to fight with them. Chuck and I used to go at it a lot. Black Gritty and I used to fight. Like, I liked fighting with the callers when they deserved it, or I felt like I needed to spice stuff up. That's all he's doing, and he's probably doing a damn good job of it because you guys are talking about it, right? So, like, now, does that mean that he's going to, like, people are going to listen to it as much? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. We talked about this. If people didn't see this, it came out Barrett Sports Media. By the way, we went really long tonight, Steve. Am I staying up too late for you, or are you good?
I'm good after whatever you got.
All right. So he's so like the ratings come out, which, by the way, Crossing Broad doesn't have the ratings out, and they normally get them. And all I'm saying is that they're not getting the ratings information from where they normally get the ratings. But the ratings were out for the winter book, which is essentially the first 3 months of the year for 2024. And what they do is you put that book up against the same book against last year. It's like any other type of business. You're going year to year. What did we do this year? What did we do last year? Sales does it with revenue. You know what I mean? And it was down 6.5 shares. Now, to keep it in perspective, like the afternoon show on the Fanatic was doing a 3 share. So they lost from, and why that's significant is that's the first 3 months that I wasn't on WIP. So that is essentially like losing double of the audience that the best show ever has. So WIP, from when I was on last year to where they were on this year without me, they lost over double of the audience that the best show ever has, which is significant. The best show ever doesn't, like, it's not a great audience, but it's not like a super shitty audience. So, and Steve and I talked about this last week. It's really, some of it is last year the Eagles were in the Super Bowl and they lost the Super Bowl, and that winter book, you get a big portion of it. So, like, let's not pretend that that's not a big part of it. But I find it interesting because I was asked, like, hey, are the ratings out? I'm like, yeah, the ratings are out. They came out April 15th. And they're like, oh, well, because I've been asking for them and I've been being told they're not out yet. Like, they've been out almost a month. So this is being slow.
Yeah, we already talked about it.
This is being slow played. Like, hey, I'll give them to you later. This is being slow played because they obviously don't want out there that the afternoons just went down that much. When really it's easily explainable. And I'm not telling you that it's still not, like, significant, but like the afternoon show is good. I say all that to say the afternoon show is going to be fine, and I'm sure it's going to continue with great ratings. So anyway, all right. So one last thing here. So this is speaking of radio, Delco Steve. So and getting laid off of radio. So my buddy Nathan Graham used to be, he was a regional vice president and he was the program director of what's it called now? It's not TDY, whatever it is, 96.5. It used to be TDY, whatever it is now. It's actually since they flipped format and changed the music, it started beating Q102. The ratings are much better.
Oh my god!
It's today's 96.5.
Is it? That's all.
I think it's today's 96.5. But my buddy Bennett works in the morning. No, it's a good station. I listen to it when I'm flipping through.
Yeah, I flip through.
Yeah, they've changed their music up a little bit. Anyway, so they asked him. They said, "Hey, listen, do you want to go here or like this is where we can send you?" They wanted to keep him in the company, and he said, "Nah, I'm cool," because he had moved here. He had been here for a couple of years, and he really likes it here, right? So he was like, you know what? I'm not moving. I've moved around all over the place. Like, I'm not moving. So he had already bought a house. His wife had a job here or whatever. So he's like, no, I'm not moving. So like, he's like, just whatever, lay me off. So I'm not going to say where he bought a house, but he bought a house where there's a carnival that literally is in his backyard. And when I talk about a carnival, I'm talking about a carnival. So every year he posts the video, and this is just a little short snippet. This is from his Instagram. But check this out.
Yeah, no. That's a no for me, dog.
Look how close this is.
He clearly backs up to a school or something, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to say what it is, but it's like Broomall. It's not Broomall because they have their carnival coming up in I think it's towards Memorial Day. It's in a week or two. But yeah, it's in that. Let's just say it's around the same area.
Yeah, no, that's a no.
And he goes on to say that he bought the house at the height of the pandemic, and of course, they didn't mention, hey, every summer or whatever. I think it's even twice a year they have this carnival.
Oh my god. Nope, I'm out.
But he has fun with it. And he has another word. He says, well, if you can hear over the screaming, here's the story. Yep.
Oh god.
So Broomall's late April. I knew it was coming up. I drove past it. So anyway, all right, so that's it. Delco Steve, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize it was almost 11 o'clock.
You're good, buddy. We had a lot to catch up on. And as I told you before the show, I'm not going to be here on Monday anyway. So
yeah, what are you going to be doing?
I'm flying to New Orleans to help my cousin and uncle drive a moving truck to Florida. And I'll be back Tuesday. Yeah.
And coming back Tuesday?
Drive. Yeah, 12-hour drive. 12-hour drive and then flying home Tuesday night.
Fly to New Orleans. Now, are you going to get to go out for a night?
No.
So right to New Orleans just to move, 12-hour drive back to home.
Well, everything's going to be packed by the time I get there. I'm just helping doing the drive and then helping unload on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
And then flying home Tuesday night.
Have you ever went to a friend's house and this is why
this thing better be packed by the time I get there.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is why I hire movers, right? We are not, I have no interest in helping anybody move. I would go help family or close friends if they ask me for whatever, but I'm not moving a house. I remember when I was younger, I would go help a friend. It was like, yeah, sure. I'll come help you move. And then I'm not even packed. You walk in, it's like, they're still like,
I did that within the last year. And I'm like, you're joking, right? Yep. I'm sitting there packing trinkets.
Yeah. No chance. Like you said, like truck's ready to go.
Yeah.
Lock up. Boom. Let's go.
Yep. So hopefully that's the plan.
All right. Well, listen, that means I'm gonna have, maybe I'll get Herb on. I had Herb locked down earlier. I think it was Monday, the day of the Maury press conference. I got sick that day. It was Monday, and
yeah, do an early show with Herb.
But he couldn't.
I'll tune in on the drive.
He couldn't. He couldn't get his phone off mute. And then by the time that happened, I had to go pick up my kids. He went to the AT&T store. So then finally they told him how to take it off mute at the AT&T store. But by the time he got home, it was like, dude, it's already 3:00, Herb. I have to go pick up my kids.
Yep.
All right. Well, it'll be the John and Herb show coming up maybe on Monday. All right, dude. Have a safe trip, man. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever else you're supposed to
Follow.
do. Follow. Don't follow Delco Steve though, because he
Oh.
doesn't. Can you put some pictures of the drive on your Instagram story?
Yeah. I'll say that and then I'll forget as I'm doing it, and then
I know. It's not a bad thing that you're not constantly.
I'll be doing driving through the deep south. So it'll be my first trip to Mississippi and Alabama. So that'll be fun.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah. Now you need to take pictures for that. All right, everybody. Listen, Steve needs to get to bed. We will talk to everybody next week, maybe even over the weekend. But be safe and see you.
Peace.